Once the crown jewel of cool cars, pop-up headlights were everywhere, but by the early 2000s, they were gone. What happened? The first car with hidden headlights came out in, you guessed it, 1936 with the Cord 810 and later the 812 models. Lovingly nicknamed the Coffin Nose for obvious reasons, this little car had the very first pop-up headlights. And while hidden headlights had been dreamed of before, the Cord 810 was the first to bring them into production. The headlights were actually modified Stinson aircraft landing lights due to Cord's ties with Stinson itself. These lights were actually hand-cranked from the dashboard, disappearing into the fenders at the speed of your wrists. Unfortunately, this sweet car's production was short due to gear slips and vapor lock, just the best things. Cord produced just shy of 3,000 models of the 810 and 812, and they ultimately ended production just a year later. The next car to feature hidden headlights was the 1938 Y-Job, America's first concept car. Designed by Harley Earl, head of GM's art and color sector, it featured eyelid-type headlights that could open and close, which is pretty cool actually. Though the Y-Job was never meant for production, it shaped Buick's design language for years. The 1940s brought us few production cars with some concepts like the Chrysler DeSoto, though due to World War II, the hidden headlight trend didn't pick up again until the 1950s. And even in the 50s, most of them were concepts only. Notably, the Ciata 208 CS out of Italy and the 1951 Chrysler LeSabre from our old friend Harley Earl. Look at that. Now let's talk about the golden age, the 1960s through the 70s, where pop-ups hit their stride. These 20 years proved to be the most innovative of this whole list and still have some of the most iconic pop-up headlights to date. In 1962, Lotus came up with a tiny little car called the Elan. This was now the pioneer of the era because, wouldn't you know it, they figured out how to put those cute little pop-up headlights on electric motors. This made it so easy that everybody wanted a piece of that. And boom! Pop-ups became so widespread and popular throughout the world that nearly every major car manufacturer had some version of them. 1963 Corvette Stingray, 1965 Buick Riviera, 1966 Lamborghini Miura, the world's first supercar, 1967 Toyota 2000 GT, 1968 Opel GT. After this though, we enter the decade of shag carpets and lava lamps, and what better place to start than the 1971 Lincoln Continental sedan. The pop-ups were sleek and cool and fit perfectly into the body. This is a cool car no matter how you cut it. On a different note though, Europeans took things in a very different direction, once again with some of the most classic designs of all time. 1973 Maserati Indy, 1974 Lancia Stratos is a rally monster, somewhat of a spaceship, and I really want one. 1976 Porsche 928, sleek GT that went front-engined for a Porsche, can you believe that? And the 1978 BMW M1, and the list goes on and on and on. All of these designs weren't just aesthetic, they helped achieve low drag coefficients in those wedge-shaped designs, and many of these cars were competitive in races, combining form with function beautifully. Now, let's pop over to the 1980s, the refresh era. Let's be honest, pop-up headlights peaked in the 80s for most people. It all started in 1976 with the Lamborghini Countach. Though it was technically made in the 70s, it's often associated with the 80s and the computer revolution of new strange designs. This was one of the big posts of the automotive industry and continues to be one of the most sought after Lamborghinis on the entire planet. As the 80s wore on, designs gradually softened, trading edges for curves and sometimes personality for practicality, if that makes sense. But that doesn't stop anyone from making some bangers. You got the Pontiac Firebird, of course. This thing is nuts. Then we got the Porsche 944, which is my all-time favorite Porsche. A lot of other people too, and I feel like it's criminally underrated. I don't know, maybe I just run to the wrong crowds. The Toyota Supra Mark II. Holy crap. Then we got the Ferrari 288 GTO and the Ferrari Testarossa. Wow, that's my favorite one. Nissan Z31 or the 300ZX. Pontiac Fiero. Just wow, this little guy just keeps going. Everybody knows what a Fiero is. Toyota Celica, just another wow. And the Toyota MR2, this is another Toyota. And guess what? We got a Chrysler LeBaron and the TVR 400 series. TVRs are so cool, but just chaotic. The Panther Solo, of course, that everybody knows that one. And the Ford Probe. Ugh. Do you remember the Ford Probe? All of these various lights symbolized a new era of secrecy and sleek design. These designs are all super iconic, and there's a lot to be said about each individual design. But unfortunately, I have to get on to the 1990s. The new era. I bet that one of you watching this right now had one of these cars, or your dad or your uncle, your friend, or somebody had one of these, or you at least had one of their posters on the wall. We're in a place now of carrying on designs that had been around for many years at this point. Tell me if you recognize these. Eagle Talon, Geostorm, the Honda NSX, Lamborghini Diablo, Mitsubishi Eclipse, Mazda RX-7 R2, Mazda MX-5 Miata, Porsche 968, the final evolution of the transaxle Porsches, the Saturn SC2, dang, that's a hard name, no wonder that one failed, Ferrari 456 Subtle, and the Jaguar XJ220. Toyota made a bunch more, Toyota MR2, the Toyota Celica again. That 5th generation of Celica was legitimately the first car I ever purchased for myself. It was already 20 years old by then, but it was a fun little manual I got to drive around. You know, except one that didn't start or didn't go up hills and died after only 6 months. But I freaking love that car. And that's the vibe of this whole era. Cars that might not have been flashy, but they were so fun. This was the last hurrah. The Corvette Z.6 was one of the last stands for pop-ups, ending its production of this body style around 2004 after the previous one. With new and emerging pedestrian safety regulations, especially in Europe, pedestrian impact laws made pop-ups a liability. Protruding edges were bad news, essentially. Other markets weren't as strict at first, but manufacturers wanted global consistency. There's also a lot of complexity and costs that came up with these headlights, and mechanical components failed over time, motors, gears, wiring, etc. And it just increased production cost for a feature that wasn't really essential. Then there was the aerodynamics reversal of thought. Ironically, modern design flipped logic of the 1980s that was produced some killer aerodynamic models like that Lancia. Pop-ups were now seen to disrupt airflow when open, and with the rise of modern LED headlights, these could be flush and slim just in the body, which reduced drag anyway. So it's just kind of like, whatever, let's throw out the pop-ups. And to put the final nail in the coffin for pop-ups, there was a huge design shift. The 2000s brought a clean sheet, minimalist kind of look. Got the Audi TT, Dodge Viper, Pontiac Solstice, the reintroduction of the Ford GT, sleek lighting that was kind of flush. You know, that could take up a lot less space, and then suddenly pop-ups looked dated. So, could they come back? You know, at the end of all this, people still love pop-ups. Despite all the issues you could have mechanically or anything else for that matter, they've become a cult icon. You know, there's Miata meetups, Supra clubs, BMW cults. They've clearly left an impact on car manufacturers enthusiasts alike. So could they come back? Well, technically, sure. I mean, yeah, they've made the Cybertruck legal, so why not these? No, I think Ferrari actually has a new one that supposedly has pop-ups on them. You'll probably see it on screen if it exists. But between safety concerns and production costs, it's unlikely we'll ever see them return in any big sort of way. We could go back to that era, who knows? But still, they live on in their hearts, on our posters, and in videos like this. What car do you think had the best pop-up headlights? Drop it in the comments. And hey, if you're not sharing this video, you're missing out on this killer smile. Check out all the references below if you missed something, and make sure you guys do the thing. Okay, bye.